Hi, welcome to Fitch Paint Repairs Garage Stage Project. We're looking at a 2020 Suzuki DRZ400, and we're going to be doing an oil change service on this. Chain, lube, and just an overall safety inspection. Customer also states there's a vibration upwards around 50 mile an hour. If you take a close look at this particular machine, you can take a quick notice of the wheel weights that are on the wheels themselves, and there's considerable amount of weight on each wheel. I'll give you a quick shot of that. Just let me set the coffee cup down. All right, so that's the rear wheel, and look at all them cone weights on there. Let's see here, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 weights on that rear wheel. You shouldn't have that many weights on the tire. And then let's take a look at the front tire. She's got quite a considerable amount of weight on it as well. See all them cones up in there? There's 4 of them on the front tire alone. 1, 2, 3, and there's another one up there kind of tucked behind that fork leg. So we're gonna do a wheel balance. We're gonna wheel truing. We're gonna check the wheels. We're gonna go ahead and dump the oil in this. And I was gonna do a mobile service and work on it at his place, but when I fired the bike up to warm it up, take it on a quick test ride to warm it, the engine sounded a little funny. Now, when I first got to the bike, I of course checked the oil on it, and it wasn't registering oil on the dipstick. And so what I did was I pulled the spark plugs off and engaged the starter, rolled the motor over a little bit, see if it sumped the oil into the crankcase. And like I thought, it kicked some oil up on the dipstick. Finally, it was registering oil, so I knew it had oil in it. So I went ahead and fired the bike up, let it idle. It fired up and ran just fine at idle. But when I took off down the road and accelerated, I heard what sounded like piston slap. There was like a clock, 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 clock noise at the top end. And so I immediately shut the bike down and checked the oil. And when I checked the oil, it was extremely overfull. And so I think probably what happened is somebody checked the oil at one point and thought it was empty and added more. This particular machine only takes about 2 quarts of oil. And this is the recommended oil, and this is the filter. I recommend you change the O-ring that's on here. Now, from what I understand, there's 3 places that you have to drain oil on this particular machine when you do an oil change. And there is your oil filter located underneath this cover here, right here. Get them cover, and you pull that off. And there's an oil filter. We'll pull that, get in there and pull that oil filter out, and there's that big O-ring on that cover that goes in. And then we got to take the skid plate off the bottom to get to 2 drain plugs, and then there is a line that comes down on the front of the motor, and you need to pull that rubber line off and extract the filter. There's a metal screen. And so we're gonna get all that done. We're gonna flush out the oil. First thing what we're gonna do is we're gonna drain the oil down. We're gonna pull the oil out of the bike, and we're gonna check it for any debris or anything like that and see if it's any good. We're gonna drain it into a clean receptacle so that we can check it and make sure that it's got, if it has any contamination in it or anything like that, and measure the amount of oil that was in the bike. And so, and then what we'll do is we'll take that oil, if it's good enough, we'll take the right amount of oil, put it back in the bike to the correct level, fire the bike up and test ride it. And we'll test the engine. And if we notice that same sound, then we definitely need to shut the bike down and check into it. And there's valve adjustments that have to happen to this bike at intervals and things like that, and different services that a lot of people don't do. They don't take the bike into the service department regularly. They think a simple oil change is all they need to do, but there's a lot of other adjustments that you have to do on a motorcycle when you do your service work. And so we're going to do a wheel balance and truing. What we'll do is we'll jack it up and we'll spin the wheel, and we'll pay close attention to the rotor and the sidewall of the wheel. And you set up a little pointer that just almost touches the sidewall of the rim or the sidewall of the rotor. And you know, you can check the trueness of the rotor versus the trueness of the wheel if you use two. And so what you do is you rotate the wheel and you just watch for the wheel to wobble and watch the gap between the little pointer and the side of the wheel. And that'll tell you if trueness. And then we got to go around and check the tightness of the spokes. And what you like to do is, I like to take the handle, the screwdriver that I've got, and just lightly tap, ding, 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 ding. It should make a nice ting sound. And if you hear a tink, tonk, 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 then you got to loose. You know, and then also just kind of grab them and kind of squeeze them. You know, grab 2 or 3 of them at a time and kind of try to see if they move, if you got any that are loose. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to check all that stuff. We're going to run through the bike, and then we'll come back. So I will also try to video the startup, because I have to start this bike real quick and double check it. So I'm going to pull the skid plate and all that stuff and drain a little bit of oil out and check it. And so on this particular machine, the reason why is because normally motorcycles have a dipstick or something down in the crankcase or a sight glass or something like that. This one has a dipstick way up here on the, and so that's why it has multiple drains, because it stores some oil in the frame. And because there's so much oil, probably because it's so high up, the gravity causes it to drain down in the crankcase. So when you pull this out to check it, you'll see nothing on there. It'll be dry. And you're like, what? That's dry. There's no oil on it. I need to add oil to my bike. Nah, man, that's not the case. So some bikes, you can crank them over with the kill switch turned off. Some bikes, you just pull the spark plug off. Spark plug wire off, leave the spark plug in the hole, or else it's going to shoot oil out. Just pull the spark plugs off and set them off to the side, kind of tuck them back in. You know, don't touch them when you're cranking a bike, because they will spark, but they won't ignite and fire the bike. And so you'll be able to crank the engine over, see if the engine spins over, or if you're looking to sump your motor, you know, get the oil moving in the crankcase, you could shift it into high gear and push the bike on the ground level, flat level surface, and rotate the motor that way. Or put it in gear, jack it up, and you can spin the tire, or pull the cover off the side, put a bolt, socket or wrench on the crankcase, and manually turn it over. You don't ever want to start it and run it if you have a low or overfill issue, because you can just cause more and more damage. All right, stay tuned, and we'll get this thing jacked up in the air and fired up. All right, we're gonna fire this thing up. Let it run for a little bit. We're gonna just go back through the double checking of it. Completely clean. Bike has not been started in a few days. Out. Still completely clean. Not showing any oil. Ooh, the battery's a little weak, huh? Should choke this on one click.
voice is so deep.
We're gonna quick check real quick right after we shut it off. Normally you would want to let it drain down for 5-10 minutes because the pump and the engine circulating the oil, and it's showing quite above.
Hey, Dad.
So you just push it in and let it rest evenly on the threads of the thing. You don't actually screw it in.
Hey, Dada. Has anyone left a comment on your video?
Yeah, a lot of people do. And if you can see in there
that they think you're my grandpa.
that the oil is way up above the cross hatches. It's actually way up here on the dipstick, and so it should be no farther than the top of the cross hatches than that. But this oil, you can see, is way up here. See how clean it is? And we're going to do it one more time so you can see what I'm talking about.
That is the shadow.
Yes, that's shadow.
Oh.
Just dip, don't thread it in. You just rest the threads
I forgot the shot.
on the, and then you come up, look, there's oil way up there. We're gonna let this oil drain a little bit and then we're gonna check it again. But that oil was all the way up there.
Man cave.
This
Dad,
bike
your
only
video
takes
is 9
1.8 quarts of oil when you do an oil filter change. So we're gonna pause the video and we'll come back after we let this. All right, we're back. We let the bike sit for about 10 minutes. Now we're gonna check the oil again.
Welcome back to part 2.
Yeah, we let it sit for quite a bit. We're gonna wipe it clean.
I made this for you
Put it
guys.
back in there. And then we're gonna bring it over so you can see. About 10 minutes of sitting time, and then oil's all the way up to right there. So, see how there's oil on it up there?
It fell on the floor. It fell on the floor.
Shouldn't be past the top line of that. Normally you want it somewhere in the middle,
It fell on
so you're not
the floor.
consuming oil.
Daddy, it fell on the floor.
It did, we'll clean it up.
Okay.
So that's where we're at now. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and go through the process, and we're gonna drain all the oil out of the bike. And we'll go from there. Did you show them your sign?
Yes, sir.
All right, stay tuned. All right, we got all the drain plugs and all the pieces pulled out, and we'll run over it real quick. All right, I had to remove the skid plate off the bottom to get to the crankcase drain plug. And then there's a frame plug. And then to get to the oil filter, I had to pull off this plastic cover that goes over the clutch, the oil filter housing, and the thermostat housing. And there was 3 bolts, 1, 2, 3, that had to be removed to pull that off. And then I also had to pull this bolt out that holds the brake lever on. There's a cotter pin on the back, pull the cotter pin, and then a big Allen. Slide that out of your way a little bit, and then you can get that off without breaking that plastic cover. And then we get 3 nuts, 10mm nuts, pull that off, and your tiny little oil filters inside that. And then you also have this metal screen and this tube assembly. So you have this big bolt here, it's like a big banjo bolt. Goes through that, and then you have a worm gear clamp, a hose clamp, that goes on the spigot. And I'll show you here real quick where they go. I don't know if you can see. That's where that spigot piece was up in there. Came down, and the hose attached to that. Then it ran down here, and then the banjo bolt ran in there. So we had to pull it out, and this is the screen that's up in there. And as you see, there is some trash and debris on that. It's nothing major. It doesn't look or appear to be any kind of metal debris or anything like that. The camera's not focused. But there is debris on it, so you have to pull that out and clean it and drain it. So the oil, some of the oil is in the frame, and then right next to that spigot is the oil plug hole. That's where you would drain the oil out. So you pull that plug out, let it drain, and there was considerable amount of extra oil in this. There's probably quart and a half too much oil in this bike. So we're just gonna let it all drain out. We're gonna clean up everything, replace all the crush washers, put all that stuff back together, and top her off with oil, and then we'll take her for a test drive. All right, stay tuned. All right, we got both of the drain plugs out on the bike. You got one in the crankcase and one in the frame on this bike that you gotta pull. And as you see the oil that came out of this, there's about at least a quart over full, maybe a quart and a half over full. And the bike only holds 1.8. So, all right, you got one hole there dripping and one hole there dripping. All right, and then we're gonna go around the other side. And then you see that hose that the oil's dripping down right here? We're gonna pull this screen out. There's a screen attached to that. So we're gonna disconnect the hose up there, pull this bolt, clean off that metal screen, and then we're also gonna come around the other side and pull the cover so that we can get to the oil filter. All right, stay tuned. I was pouring the oil into an old jug to measure how much overflow I had. And it's definitely way above 2 quarts, about 2.5. So she was about almost 2/3 of a quart of oil over. But here's the bad problem. See these chunks? That came out of the oil pan. That's metal. It's not steel. It's aluminum. But it's metal. There's some internal damage in this motor. Chunks of metal. We'll save it. We'll put it in a Ziploc bag. We're gonna keep all that. We'll give it to the customer to show. But that's not a good sign. Oh, not good, not good, not good. It's not a lot. Nothing was stuck to the magnet. And as you see, it's not sticking to my magnet. My magnet steel sticks to steel, but this is not. That's aluminum. Okay, there's no steel sticking to the magnet in the oil, but those are big old chunks. Let me get a flashlight, shine down in there so you can see better. But not good. There was nothing in the oil filter that I could see. This just came out of the frame or the crankcase. So those big old chunks were all in the bottom of the motor. Not good, not good. I will contact the owner and let them know before I move forward with it. All right, stay tuned, but DRZ400, it's a 2020 Suzuki. Just did oil drain and found contamination, bits of metal, non-ferrous metal in the bottom of the motor. Aluminum motor, that's not a good sign. Stay tuned. All right, now we're gonna continue on with this. We changed the oil in it. When we dumped the oil, we found some metal debris in the oil pan. So the bike was had about 2.5 quarts oil in it. It's only supposed to have 1.8, and so the motor was making some funny noise, and so that's why we're looking at it. And right now I just finished putting oil in it, fresh oil filter, pulled both oil plugs, also the metal screen, cleaned it and went through it. And so now we're going to fire it up and see what it does with fresh oil. Already sounds better. See on a test ride what it does. I'm gonna let it sit, drain down, oil a little, and we're gonna check the level on it before we test ride it. Stay tuned.